Amigo!
What happened?
¿Qué pasa, amigo?
No pasa nada, amigo. Mucho trabajo.
Muy rápido.
Sí.
Finito con día, amigo.
Sí. Hoy
¿Dos
acabamos.
capas?
2 capas o una capa hoy es finito.
Número 1, pintura, amigo.
Pero ya vino el agua.
He loves fresh food. Amateur chefs, barbecuers, smorgasborders, snackers, takers.
Oh yeah, the slider.
Yeah, the slider,
Yeah.
Another beautiful rainy day in Washington. It's a schedule killer. It's raining pretty good outside today, so we're gonna paint this door because last time it was too cold when it was painted, and there's some hard to see in camera, some heavy orange peel and cracking because it cracked. So we're gonna make those go away. It's really important to get organized with this fine finish kind of work. I find that it's better to figure out everything you need, plan for everything before you get started, instead of starting and then as you go figuring out what you need. Saves a lot of time and headache. You need to really think about your foot traffic in and out of the house, what kind of gear you're bringing inside, how big of a mess you're making, because that will dramatically affect your finished product. You want as little mess and clutter and dust as possible, so keep that in mind. I like to have 2 separate areas, one I can be dirty in and one that I'm very meticulously organized in. You really need to be organized. You need to think about every step you're doing so that you don't make more work for yourself, and that'll dramatically affect your finished product. I think a lot of people would say that this door looks good. See some orange peel coming up there? But here's my main problem. So hard to see. It's a heavy orange peel, but you see that cracking? That's not okay with me, so we're gonna fix that. One thing I like to do is take a, what is it called, Mr. Clean Magic Eraser, and use that to clean the glass surfaces I'm gonna tape to. Just hit it real quick, and then get the whole window nice and clean. That way, when you demask everything, you've got a nice streak-free, shiny window. Okay, so we've got it somewhat prepped, sanded, dusted, tack ragged. We've got protection down. We're clean, we're organized, we're thinking through what we're doing. And this is my insurance. And it probably 100% does not need this as a primer. But I put it on because it's insurance. It's gonna seal anything underneath it. I don't have to guess what I'm painting over, if it's gonna adhere, if it's gonna bond. I'm gonna put a real light coat of this on. I'm gonna roll it with a mohair roller. I like these better than foam. And I use these throwaway Worcester Pelican liners. You're not putting it on for color coverage. You're putting it on to seal and bond and adhere to the surface. You don't want to put it on thick, because if you put it on too thick, you'll get what's called a solvent pop, where the top layer is drying and evaporating so fast from the alcohol. This is a shellac base primer. And so you'll get tiny air bubbles trying to escape, but the top has filmed over so fast, those air bubbles get trapped and they make these small little bumps in your coat. So you want to put it on real thin. This is not something you're going to use as a building primer. That's not its intended purpose. I guess you could with 10 coats, but that's not what I use it for. Okay, so we've got primer on, that dried. I sanded that. Basically to feel, you've got to use your hands for sanding, or you'll miss stuff. You can use lights as well. That's going to be helpful, especially if you're doing any kind of patchwork. But you want to sand your substrate, your surface, and feel it with your hand behind it until it's to your desired smoothness. It's very important to use your hands to feel what you're sanding. When I'm doing these big trim packages in these houses, I feel everything with my hands. Every square inch is sanded until it's smooth to the touch, and that's basically just insurance. And you can't get a better feel than. Okay, so we've got a window open over here, so we've got fresh air coming in for our ventilation and our air feed, air supply. And then over here we've got a little fan, and the trick here is to take a 5-gallon strainer bag and wrap it over the whole thing. Make sure you're covering both sides, or however many sides it has, of the air that it sucks in. And what it's going to do is any little specks of dust, particles, debris, bugs, it's going to trap them here, and it's going to trap them here. So if you look real close, you can see I've had this on for a couple minutes and it's already got all this debris that otherwise could have fallen in my paint. So really important when you're spraying with an airless, which is what I'm using. I'm using a little Harbor Freight airless pump that works just fine. I'm using a Graco G40, commonly used on my air assisted pump. That's kind of a combination of HVLP and airless together. And it's really important not to start or stop with an airless when you are painting anything that's kind of fine finish. With an exterior you can get away with it, with drywall you can get away with it. If you're back rolling it doesn't matter, but anything that's fine finish you really want to make sure not to start and stop on the substrate. So basically if I need to hit a spot right here, right in the middle, I need to start on some paper, start off of the substrate. I like to start on paper so I'm not shooting a bunch of overspray into nowhere. And so I'm going to start on some paper and then do my pattern. Don't let go of the trigger all the way at the end, all the way back, and then stop again on the paper. Alright, so the primer's dry, I've sanded it, and I'm getting ready to shoot top coat. I wanted to go a little more into depth, but I am actually working. I've got multiple job sites going on right now, and so I'm just, giving it's an overview. How to paint a door, kinda, if you're already a painter-ish.
Before I start spraying, I thought I'd mention something important. A lot of guys will go and they'll dust off the whole door, they'll tack rag it, they'll vacuum it, and they'll forget to dust the existing masked areas, because it just doesn't compute in our brain sometimes, because since we're not painting this, it doesn't need to get dusted. But it's very important to dust off and tack rag the masking surrounding the substrate that you're painting, or that dust is going to fly into your finished coat.
Okay, I've been coming along on this door. Right now I'm getting rid of the orange peel. I left some of it unsanded so you can see this very heavy orange peel, because the last time this door was done it was too cold. I tried to push the paint too hard. So you can see that texture. Take the light away in the right angle. Yeah, it still looks pretty bad. So you see the orange peel there. Come over here, and it's almost gone. You can see a little bit on the edge there that I haven't gotten out yet. Major difference. Now with your top coat, you almost want to treat it like clear coat in automotive. You want enough paint to be able to wet sand it. If you have a problem with orange peel, you want to be able to wet sand that out. And you're going to use some fine grit sandpaper and some cold water. So all you're doing here is taking off some of the paint, using the millage and the film that it's built up to create a new flat surface. This is a very easy way to get a glass smooth finish in look and feel. I just have some clean water. You can see how much paint has come off and mixed with the water. And I've found that when the paint starts to mix with the water, it's a little more forgiving. You can push a little bit harder. You know, I'm talking, if you take a cotton ball, halfway density, not pushing so hard that you touch your fingers. So all you're gonna do is take some sandpaper and water, and you will feel that orange peel or rough texture, whatever you're dealing with, you will feel it smooth out. That's why you want to use some kind of sponge pad. I wouldn't use a full sponge or regular sandpaper because you don't get that give that the sponge pad gives you. And just keep working the water around. Don't be afraid to get lots of water on there. The paint will want to start to come off, and once it does, it'll make it harder to sand. So you need to make sure you use lots of water. Just think of it like a lubrication for the sanding pad. And basically just move along one area at a time until it feels nice and smooth and that paper has no resistance and no drag to it, and it's just effortlessly gliding across the top. And once you're happy with it, you're going to need a lot of rags. I just use these microfiber towels from Home Depot. You don't want to leave pools of water once you've basically reactivated that paint. You want to get up all the excess until there's just a hazy film of water left behind. That will evaporate out. And once it's completely dry and you've tack clothed it again, you're good to spray another coat. Take your light and start shining it somewhat horizontal, and it'll expose imperfections. I don't know if you can see it. Right here, there is a droplet of paint, probably a spit from the gun. And if you run your hand over it, you can feel that slight raised bump of paint. And so to take care of that, just a little bit of wet sanding. In a little circular motion. And the trick here, if you think it's done, don't wait till the water's gone. Feel while there's water there, because once the water's gone and you run your finger over it, you're going to risk bringing up that edge of paint that you just removed and have the same problem. Alright, I can't feel it anymore, that's gone. Take your rag and lightly press. Do not swipe it around. Same idea, it'll raise that new edge of paint you just made. Let that dry, and then lightly feel it with your hands, and if it's good to go, then spray away. This is the final coat, so I'm going to try to get it a little heavy so that it all flows and gels out real nice. That's the whole point of having it laying horizontal, is so on that last coat you can flow it out without worrying about runs as if it was hanging vertical. Take your time. Go nice and slow. Move like a robot. Always keep the spray fan 90 degrees to the surface. Keep the same distance and the same speed the entire time you're spraying. You don't want to fan out towards the end because then it'll be an inconsistent millage. I have the hose wrapped around my neck so I'm not fighting it and it's not going to touch the fresh paint I've just sprayed.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see. From up here, the world seems small.